All right, shalom, shalom.
Shalom.
First and foremost, we want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahawah, Bahasham, Yahawashi, Bahasham, Qadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of the great millstone, and peace and salutations to the elect. Got the elder Atha here, and I'm the brother Atha from GMS Dallas, and we're continuing on the series of 2 Samuel. Today we're going to be going into chapters 9 and 10, and pretty much it's a continuation of David's rulership and how the Lord is pretty much setting up David. Every chapter we read in 2 Samuel up until this point that we've read, the Lord is establishing David's kingdom and his throne in the earth. And this is pretty much a continuation of that. Now, this chapter, in chapter 9, is going into the relationship that David had with Jonathan. Okay. And like the scriptures say, we read it in 1 Samuel. It talked about how David loved Jonathan as he loved his own soul, right? Meaning they had a close connection. Okay, they had brotherly love. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and read a little bit of this here, just keeping that in mind. This is 2 Samuel chapter 2. I'm sorry, 2 Samuel chapter 9, verse 1. It says, "And David said, is there yet any that is left of the house of Saul, that I may show him kindness for Jonathan's sake?" Because remember, when Saul and Jonathan died, David proclaimed a mourning session for Israel to mourn over Saul and David. I'm sorry, over Saul and Jonathan. Okay, Saul and Jonathan's death. Right. So it says for his friend Jonathan's sake, because again they were friends. Jonathan and David were friends. Okay, they were brothers-in-law, but they were also friends. It says, verse 2, "And there was the house of Saul a servant. There was of the house of Saul a servant whose name was Ziba. And when they had called him unto David, the king said unto him, Art thou Ziba? And he said, Thy servant is he." Okay, so this is letting you know that everyone at this time was pretty much subservient unto David. After Abner and Ishbosheth were put to death, okay, which David didn't order them to be put to death, but the Lord ended up, having them get killed. That was pretty much the event that took place that allowed Israel to come with, all Israel to come under the authority of King David. Okay. And so it says in verse 3, "And the king said, Is there not yet any of the house of Saul, that I may show the kindness of the Most High unto him? And Ziba said unto the king, Jonathan hath yet a son, which is lame on his feet," which we read about that, I believe in chapter 2, if I'm not mistaken. It talked about how Mephibosheth ended up being lame on his feet, where his caretaker, when he was a little boy, his caretaker dropped him, right, while she was fleeing, and pretty much he ended up being injured. Okay, he ended up being lame on his feet, meaning a cripple. Okay, it says, and again, the reason why David wanted to show kindness unto the house of Saul and Jonathan's kin was because of that pact that Jonathan and David had made with one another. Okay, because even when David was in the wilderness, Jonathan was going out and visiting David, right? Jonathan didn't want David to have to flee, but when it was apparent that Saul wanted to put David to death, then he had to let him go. Okay, so it says in verse 4, "And the king said unto him, Where is he? And Ziba said unto the king, Behold, he is in the house of Machir, the son of Amiel, in Lodabar." Now let's check this word out. Lodabar, see where that's at. Let's see here. Oh, we say this all the time, Lodabar. That's your pod. This is Sean H 3810. Okay, Lodabar. La'a means no, or not. And then Debar actually has a couple of, you could say, a couple of different definitions here. It's pasture, word, or speaking. You can see here, it goes back to speak, speak, to promise, okay, to declare, okay. So it says here, not a pasture, but literally la'a means no, and then debar means word. So it says it's a place in Palestine. Pastureless, okay. So a place in Palestine, same city. Okay, here. All right. So it says a town in Manasseh in Gilead, east of the Jordan River. Okay, so he stayed east of the Jordan River. So he was out kind of look a little bit, kind of out in the country, right? So Ziba went and fetched him, right? Let's go back to continue on in verse 5. It says, and then King David sent and fetched him out of the house of Machir, the son of Amiel from Lo-Debar or La-Debar. Verse 6. It says, now when Mephibosheth, which this is the son of Jonathan. Now let's actually get the word. I think we got it last time. The first time his name was mentioned, but let's get it again. The word here is Strong's H4648. Mapaya Bashath. Okay. Mapaya Bashath. It's a compound word. It says exterminating the idol. It says the grandson of Saul and son. Oh, hold on. Let me see here. It says the son of Jonathan, the grandson of Saul. It looks like Saul had two grandsons named Mephibosheth, but it says son of Jonathan, specifically the son of Jonathan, and the grandson of Saul. Okay. And it says also here, dispeller of shame. Okay. So let's go back. It says, continue on to verse 6. Now when Mephibosheth, the son of Jonathan, the son of Saul, was come to David, he fell on his face and did reverence. Okay, now I have actually one of their precept. We quoted a lot, soft answer turneth away wrath, man. Because basically he did what Jacob did to Esau. Okay, when Esau and Jacob crossed paths again after they had, pretty much established themselves in the earth, talking about the individual men. Jacob was afraid that Esau was going to put him to death because he said, when the days of the mourning of my father are at hand, then I'm going to slay my brother Jacob. So Jacob said, okay, look, it's been all these years since I've seen my brother Esau. Let me split up my possessions so that, if he finds one, at least all my possessions, at least all my sons and wives and possessions don't get killed, right? But when you read that account, Jacob, he pretty much humbled himself, right, to prevent Esau from, potentially attacking him, right? So this is the same mindset here that Mephibosheth was showing, okay? But again, it's all to turn away the wrath of somebody who has a power. Oh, that's another scripture in Sirach we can get. Let me read this real quick. Proverbs 15:1. A soft answer turneth away wrath, but grievous words stir up anger. You see? So he could have, came to David like a lot of other people did, misunderstanding, thinking that David put, his father to death, and David, was responsible for all the, fault, all the death of his house. But no, he humbled himself, right? And it says, but grievous words stir up anger. Okay, so Mephibosheth was wise enough to say, okay, let me speak softly unto David, right? It says the son, verse 6, 2 Samuel 9:6. Now when Mephibosheth, the son of Jonathan, the son of Saul, was come unto David, he fell on his face and did reverence And David said, Mephibosheth, and he answered, behold, thy servant. Okay, so here you have a lame man, son of Jonathan, basically reverencing David. And it says in verse 7, and David said unto him, fear not, for I will surely show thee kindness for Jonathan thy father's sake. And I will restore thee all the land of Saul thy father, and thou shalt eat bread at my table continually. Yeah.
Now, with David showing that mercy, that was a prelude pretty much to the Lord having mercy on Israel. You know what I'm saying? Because that's the house of Saul and the house of David both make up, you know what I'm saying, Israel.
Mm-hmm.
You know, David made a pact with Jonathan, meaning he was a man of his word. You know, you see all these different characteristics that David is showing, you know, like any other king that would have gone through what he went through. He wiping out the whole line and all those different things. But David was always in the spirit when it came to Saul, Jonathan, you know what I'm saying? Especially with Jonathan, you know what I'm saying? I made a pact that I was going to look out for you, you know? He made it clear that he wasn't finna harm nobody in Saul's house. You know what I'm saying? Because he understood through the spirit that it was bigger than him.
Mm-hmm.
You know? And then like you mentioned Jacob earlier. You mentioned Jacob being changed to Israel.
Mm-hmm.
Jacob and David are one and the same for those who can receive it.
Mm-hmm.
You see? So, and he had a situation where he had to be humble, and then he had a situation where he had to show mercy.
Right.
But all those things wrapped up into one man is why he's the head of the church. You know what I'm saying? As Peter.
Kind.
For those who can receive it.
Kind. Yep. I'm gonna get this precept that came to mind. This is Sirach chapter 9 and verse 13. It says, keep thee far from the man that hath power to kill, so shalt thou not doubt the fear of death. And if thou come unto him, make no fault, lest he take away thy life presently. You see? So this was, a fearful moment for Mephibosheth, basically being required to come before the king, who had just pretty much subdued, all the nations around him. Okay. And basically his grandfather, Saul, was trying to kill David. Okay. So you can imagine the stuff that was going through his mind. He's already crippled, right? So he had no choice but to just plead for mercy, and
Saul and Jonathan was gone.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So that was the wisest thing he probably could do. It says, finishing out that verse in Sirach, remember that thou goest in the midst of snares, and that thou walkest upon the battlements of the city. So he already knew that his life could have been in danger, but thankfully David was merciful. He sought Mephibosheth to show kindness unto him. So it says here, David said unto him, fear not, for I will surely show thee kindness for Jonathan thy father's sake, and will restore thee all the land of Saul thy father. So David remembered the covenant that him and Jonathan had made. Okay, and not only that, he also gave that land inheritance, because you had Saul, who was killed, and then you had Jonathan, who was killed, and then you also had Ishbosheth, okay, who was another son of Saul's. He was also killed as well. So a lot of those sons of Saul and that line was pretty much getting dwindled down, okay, because also you had that majority of Saul's army had died in that battle against the Philistines. So that land inheritance pretty much was given to Mephibosheth. Okay, it says and thou shalt eat bread at my table continually. In verse 8, it says, and he bowed himself, talking about Mephibosheth. It says he bowed himself and said, what is thy servant, that thou shouldest look upon such a dead dog as I am? You see, so he humbled himself, right, before David, which is another thing to do that was wise. Okay. It says, verse 9, it says, then the king said to Ziba, Saul's servant, and said unto him, I have given unto thy master's son all that pertain to Saul and to all his house. Thou therefore and thy sons and thy servants shall till the land for him, and thou shalt bring in the fruits, that thy master's son may have food to eat. Yeah, because Mephibosheth was living in another man's house. You know what I mean? He wasn't really able to work like that because he was crippled. So, you know, David told Ziba, who was Saul's servant, hey Ziba, look, you got all these sons, right? All these servants. Look, take that land, you know, and basically till it and feed, you know, to feed Mephibosheth. Okay, it says, but Mephibosheth, thy master's son, shall eat bread always at my table. Now Ziba had 15 sons and 20 servants, so he had 35 employees, if you will, right? So that was enough to be able to take over, to look over Saul's land. Okay, it says in verse 11, then said Ziba unto the king, according to all that my lord the king hath commanded his servant, so shall thy servant do. As for Mephibosheth, said the king, he shall eat at my table as one of the king's sons. So that's a beautiful thing.
And David was pretty much that was his family too. You know what I'm saying? Like you said, that was his in-laws.
Mm-hmm.
You see, he took her just like he promised he would. You see, a man of integrity. He kept his word. You know, he was like, shit. I mean, all this is yours anyway. You know what I'm saying? The beef between between me and your grandfather don't overshadow what the Lord set up.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? And he held to that. When he a carnal man would say he didn't have to do that, but a spiritual man understands why he did. You know, you got it.
Kind of have a precept. This is James chapter 2, and let me see here. James chapter 2 and verse 13. Okay, it says, for he shall have judgment without mercy, that hath showed no mercy, and mercy rejoiceth against judgment. So,
right. And then once again, you have this term called the mercy of David.
Mm-hmm.
You see, every Israelite man don't get the mercy that David got. You see, but when it was necessary for him to show mercy, he did. He did it constantly. He showed mercy. He showed mercy to Saul. You know what I'm saying? Now he's showing mercy to Jonathan through his son,
mm-hmm.
through his last living son. You know, without that mercy, I would say when the spirit jumped on him, when he showed mercy to Nabal.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there were several times where David was able to show mercy because he was in the spirit. Now you see why the Lord was able. Now you see why the Lord had mercy on him. He showed David how to be merciful. Go ahead.
Con, I'm gonna get a little bit of this commentary here. It says, this is the Bridgeway Bible commentary. It says, although his power was now great, David did not forget his covenant with Jonathan. See,
what's that precept? What's that? It's a precept in the Apocrypha. The greater thou art, the more humble you should be.
Right. Yep.
You see, all these different precepts come to mind as you read through this account. You're like, man, David was, you know what I'm saying? The Lord put the spirit on him to be everything. Matter of fact, I got a precept real quick.
Mm-hmm.
Matter of fact, this is 1 Samuel 13 and 14. It says, but now thy kingdom shall not continue. The Lord has sought him a man after his own heart, and the Lord had commanded him to be a captain over the people. because thou hast not kept that which the Lord has commanded thee. Now, when you get into this word, let me see what it say for heart. It's the word is lob. Right.
Which precept was this Zaquan like?
1 Samuel. Hold up.
Oh, I can pull it up here.
Right. It says inner man, mind. Oh, matter of fact, let me get the word. Yep, it's lob. Right. Inner man, mind, will, heart, soul, understanding. Right. Inner part, mist. Mind, knowledge, thinking, reflection, memory, inclination, determination, conscience. Right. It says heart of moral character. See, a seat of courage, a seat of emotions and passions. Right. See, even though David had all these emotions and passions, he never let those things dictate his decision making. You know, so the way that he was acting towards Saul's family and Jonathan and Mephibosheth, he was doing those things because he was in the spirit of Yahawashi. You see, knowing that he needed mercy, knowing that he was gonna have to show mercy. We learning these same things. You see, that's why all these back and forths with all these other groups and all that is to the point now where, you know what, the information is out there. We showed mercy by just leaving everything alone. You know, they called us rapists, they called us pedophiles, they spread all these lies and all that. Look, we know we all guilty because we all in this flesh, not guilty of these accusations that be heaped upon us. But at the end of the day, all we can do is the will of the Lord. You see, so now you're starting to see the point to where, you know what, lead him. And eventually it came a point to where David had to leave Saul to his devices. He was like, you know what, man, I'm not gonna lay a finger on you, man. You see, but whatever problems you got with me, hey, the Lord is gonna have to. I'm just gonna leave it in the Lord's hand. The Lord is gonna judge between me and thee. You see, that's why you're starting to see us shake the dust off our feet when it comes to these other groups. Look, they're gonna do what they're gonna do because that's what they were set up to do. You see, that's they in their lot, we in ours. You see, now it's to the point where we need to get out our own way and protect the flock. You see, our job is to prophesy. Our job is to help the apostles and elders and all these different things. You see, and you see the house of David and the house of Saul battling to this day, and that battle ain't gonna be over until Yahawashi return. You see, so that the loving kindness that David is showing, you're gonna notice that as we continue to read, you know what I'm saying, he gonna need the mercy. You know, just imagine if David wouldn't have been merciful and would have wiped out the house of Saul. Like, you know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. It would have been a whole different outcome, but that's not the way the Lord set it up. You got it.
Yeah, this is let me get this scripture real quick. In Philippians chapter 2. It's Philippians chapter 2, and let me see here. Verse 3. It says, let nothing be done through strife or vainglory, but in lowliness of mind, let each esteem other better than themselves. Let not.
See, now King David understood. He understood that Saul was going off, but it was what it was. You see, he was like, you know what? The Lord anointed him and made him king. Who am I to touch the Lord's anointed? You see? Now Saul knew David was anointed. He didn't give a damn.
Man.
You see? but the prophecy was that David was going to be risen up and then Saul was going to be wiped out, and that's what happened. You see? So when you see Mephibosheth come as humble as he did, you know, he was able to read the room. You know, my father's house has been completely destroyed. My granddad gone, my dad gone. You know what I'm saying? And now I'm being summoned to the man that my grandfather was trying his best to kill. Now he's in power. He read the room. He was going in there on some old agree with my adversary quickly. But David was like, no. Saul was still the king. Like I said, I wasn't gonna lay no hand on his household. You know what I'm saying? David, Jonathan is like my brother. You know what I'm saying? So no. That makes you my nephew. We family. But you see the difference between the house of Saul and the house of David, right? Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
Right. This is Philippians 2:4. It says, look not every man on his own things, but every man also on the things of others. Now, this ain't talking about everybody in the whole world. We're talking about, the brothers, man, like those that have the same belief, okay? Those that have fellowship in the spirit, you see, with one another. We're supposed to look on each other's things and make sure that the brother's straight. And basically, again, like David said, according to the covenant that he made with Jonathan, he upheld that by looking after Jonathan's son. You see, that's an honorable thing to do. Okay, so our people can learn from that. But it says, that was verse 11. So continue on in 2 Samuel 9 in verse 12. It says, and Mephibosheth had a young son whose name was Micah, and all that dwelt in the house of Ziba were servants unto Mephibosheth. You see, so basically King David was like, hey, look, you served under Saul. Well, guess what? You're going to serve, now that Saul's dead, you're going to serve his grandson, Mephibosheth. Okay, which he ended up, Mephibosheth was handicapped anyway, so he needed the help, right? So it says, verse 13, so Mephibosheth dwelt in Jerusalem, for he did eat continually at the king's table and was lame on both his feet. So I don't
think
know.
about that.
Yeah.
Think about that. Saul, it was prophesied that Saul's house was going to be broken up.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? His house was crippled, just like his last living descendant. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And David, being merciful, being in the spirit, was like, you know what? That's my family too. So at the end of the day, it was, look, I don't care what was going on with me and Saul. That don't got nothing to do with this. You see, I made a pact with Jonathan, and I'm gonna keep that. But when you think about it, in the spirit, it was David was never gonna abandon Israel. You see, that would have been abandoning Israel if he would have been carnal like that. You know what I'm saying? So that's why it was so important for him to keep those promises and all those different things. Because when it came time for him, you see, David should have been dead for the things that he had done. So that's what I'm saying. Him being merciful early in these chapters gives you a prelude to why the Lord was so merciful regarding him and his house. You got it.
Continuing on in 2 Samuel chapter 9, verse 13. So Mephibosheth dwelt in Jerusalem, for he did eat continually at the king's table and was lame on both his feet. So that's just an account right there of how David did right. And it says right here, it says David's kindness to Mephibosheth. And we read that scripture in James, okay? For he shall have judgment without mercy that hath showed no mercy. So David showed mercy. So he received judgment with mercy whenever he went off, right? It says, this is this is chapter 10. Okay, we're gonna finish this chapter out. 2 Samuel chapter 10 and verse 1. Okay, you can see here is another parallel chapter to First Chronicles. You can go into First Chronicles and read this as well. It says, and it came to pass after this that the king of the children of Ammon died, and Hanun, his son, reigned in his stead. So when you go to First Samuel, which we did a series on First Samuel. When you go back to First Samuel and you read chapter 22, okay, you have this account here in verse 3. I'm going to read it. Okay, this was the man that died in 2 Samuel 10. This is said 1 Samuel chapter 22 verse 3. And David went thence to Mizpeh of Moab, and he said unto the king of Moab, let my father and my mother, I pray thee, come forth, and I will be with you. And be with you till I know what the Most High will do for me. And he brought them before the king of Moab, and they dwelt with him all the while that David was in the hold. Okay, and even when you go on the map, the territories of Ammon and Moab were very close. Okay, so basically, this king here in 2 Samuel, okay, basically had showed favor to David at one point in time, and pretty much same thing when you read in Genesis. Well, actually, Exodus. I'm sorry, Exodus, the first chapter, when that king that had known Joseph had died, his sons, that reigned in his stead, they pretty much started treating them like slaves, and so it's just kind of what happened. Like, after that king died, that heathen king died, that had a good relationship with David, his son was like, nah, F these Israelite guys, right? So it says in verse 2, then David said, I will show kindness unto Hanun, the son of Nahash, as his father showed kindness unto me. And David sent to comfort him by the hand of his servants for his father. And David's servants came into the land of the children of Ammon. So let me actually get a cross-reference real quick and see if it says the account Nahash. Okay, so let's see here. Okay. Let's read this real quick. Saul defeats the Ammonites. Okay. So I wonder if that's the same one. I got to go back and look. Okay. So continuing on here, it says in verse 2, and David's servants came into the land of the children of Ammon. And the princes of the children of Ammon said unto Hanun their lord, thinkest thou that David doeth honor thy father, that he hath sent comforters unto thee? Hath not David rather sent his servants unto thee to search the city and to spy it out and to overthrow it? Okay, now keep in mind, we read in chapter 8, 2 Samuel chapter 8, David took down the Philistines, took down Moabites, he took down the Edomites, okay? But the Ammonites, he kind of, and the Syrians as well, right? He pushed back the Syrians, okay? But it didn't make mention of the Ammonites until here. So, Ammon kind of got dealt with last, right? Up until this point that, David hadn't went into their land and jacked them up. He actually sent peace messengers to the Ammonites, right? Now the Ammonites said, look, this dude David, man, he's trying to spy out our land so that he can overthrow it like he did all these other nations. So this is what they did. This is what the Ammonites did. It says, wherefore Hanun, who was the king of Ammon, took David's servants and shaved off the one half of their beards and cut their garments in the middle, even to their buttocks, and sent them away. So he didn't kill them, right? He didn't kill David's servants, but he took the servants and he cut off, half of it. Basically made a mockery of them, made them look crazy. He cut. Imagine that, they got we wear our garments down to the foot, right? But if you cut the garment off in the middle, like like the long, the horizontal way, right? And it's basically not covering your body, then that's embarrassing, right? And it says he sent them back to Israel. So let me get a cross reference on here as well, where it talks about he shaved off the half of their beard, just so we can get a little bit of customs on the beard. It says the beard is held in high respect and greatly valued in the East, okay, the Middle East, okay. The possessor considers it as his greatest ornament. Talking about the beard. You see that? So, for people shaving their beard, like completely clean shaven their whole face, well, you cutting off your greatest ornament. That's like a woman cutting off all her hair to where she's bald. You see?
Right.
Crazy. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, what's that? That Black Panther spirit, man. The bald warrior.
Yeah.
woman, you know.
That's just like all the commercials, all the shaving cream commercials. You know what I'm saying? They show the dude with the smooth face, and then they got the lady rubbing all on his face. You know what I'm saying? Like that's what's up. But at the end of the day, you look stupid. You know, I will say if you have facial hair, I will say if you can grow facial hair and decide not to, you technically being wicked.
Yep. Yep. It says the possessor considers it as his greatest ornament. Okay. Often swears by it, and in matters of great importance, pledges it. And nothing can be more secure than such a pledge, for its owner will redeem it at the hazard of his life. It says the beard was never cut off, but in mourning or as a sign of slavery. Ooh, that's cold.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. And now you see, you get glorified. You get glorified for shaving your beard off, looking all smooth faced and all that. You know what I'm saying? Certain places won't hire you. That's why I say, shoot, my beard ain't full like that. You know, so I got taco meat on my face, but you know, it's a show of faith. You know, it is what it is. I want to say, at least I got enough to look. I do have enough to look manly, even though it's not full. You know what I'm saying? But I'm gonna roll with the taco meat.
Patches and all, man. Shoot to the kingdom, man. We
Patches on hula head.
That's all good. We gad anyway, so you know we're gonna get it in the kingdom, Lord willing.
I'm telling you.
It says let me see here. Okay, the beard is a mark of authority and liberty among the Mohammedans. Let's see. Okay,
matter of fact, I'm gonna get my Bible dictionary real quick.
Yeah, Khan. It says the Persians who clip the beard and shave above the jaw are reputed as heretics. So, like, you know, if you cut your whole, like, that's what, man. You see a lot of Iranians, they be wearing their beard, man. You know, like a lot of people, like, you know what I'm saying, over there, they be the men. You don't really see them smooth face like that, unless maybe if they come over here. But if they over there in their country, a lot of them, they be repping their beard, like they leaders and stuff. You know, they be having that long beard, right? It says they who serve in the seraglios have their beards shaven as a sign of servitude. Let me see here. Okay. It says among the Arabians, it is more infamous for anyone to appear. And infamous is like a bad thing. Like, you know, if you're infamous, like it's a bad reputation. It says it is more infamous for anyone to appear with his beard cut off than among us to publicly be whipped or branded. And many would prefer death to such a punishment. So, and they got precepts to back it up. So it's saying in amongst the Arabians, which the Arabians, those are Shemites, okay? Those are Shemites, okay? And it says it is more basically more of a bad reputation for one to appear with his beard cut off than for somebody to be publicly whipped. So basically, like, they don't cut their beards off, man. You know, Esau be pushing that clean shaven identity, hiding his identity agenda. But
that's what I'm saying. This fool face will be smooth, but his back hairy.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You got, I was saying, your arms like you got a built-in sweater.
Man,
you see all this hair, but and that's what I'm saying. And that's the thing. A 5 o'clock shadow. Most people shave in the morning, but before the sun go down, it's already coming back. Let you know you ain't supposed to be messing with it. Look, This is the Zondervan's Compact Bible Dictionary. Beard. It says a badge of manly dignity. As a sign of mourning, it was accustomed to pluck it out or cut it off. The Israelites were forbidden to shave off the corners of their beards, probably because it was regarded as a heathenish sign. You see, and when David told them dudes, he was like, "Look, y'all just come back when y'all beards grow back." You know what I'm saying? I don't need that around me. Right. You know what I'm saying? Now, he didn't put him to death or nothing like that. You know what I'm saying? But he was like, "Bro, you can let that shit go back." You know what I'm saying? Just that's just You know, I don't know how. I don't know. That's what I'm saying. The heathen was mocking him. We just gonna shave off half of it.
Yeah, that sounds like some Japanese shit to do. That shit sounds like some gook shit to do anyway. Like, you know, they be
You know
doing,
what I'm saying?
yeah, you doing weird stuff
And
like
that, and that's what that was another way of David showing mercy. You know what I'm saying? He was like, man, look, just roll your shit back, and then we'll deal with it after that.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Well, this,
so even though for something that wasn't no small thing, shaving a man's beard off halfway, cutting his garment, and doing all that was mad disrespectful. When David just said that's what I'm saying. That was a custom. If you send a messenger, you don't kill the messenger.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And instead of them killing the messenger, they just made sure they embarrass him. Like, dude, what? That's what I'm saying. First of all, the only reason why David sent those men to you was he was in peace mode. Not beast mode. He was in peace mode. You know what I'm saying? Your father was good to me. I'm trying to be good to y'all. You know?
Kind.
And then even though they had GMOs back then, this was a GMO baby tactic.
Yeah.
Nah, you know what I'm saying? Go ahead.
Yep. So them Ammonites, you know, shaved off David's servants' beards, okay, and it sent them back to Israel, right? So verse 5, when they told it unto David, he sent to meet them, because the men were greatly ashamed. You see, they were ashamed to have the, you know, like, you know, they probably couldn't do nothing about it. They're probably trying to resist getting and they, you know, like when it was happening, like nobody wants their clothes cut, like, you know what I mean? You know, they had to walk back probably half naked, right? It says, and the king said, tarry at Jericho until your beards be grown, and then return, right? It says, verse 6. And when the children of Ammon saw that they stank before David, I actually want to get that word stink real quick.
Yeah.
It's the same. I think it was referenced as well in Exodus. Strong's H887 Ba'ash. It says to stink, to abhor, abomination, loathsome, to have a bad smell or a stink, to become odious, figuratively, to stink, figuratively of wickedness, you know, like basically like, to be offensive. It says here figuratively to be offensive morally here at the bottom. Okay, so like David was like, yo, okay, these niggas, man, we ain't dealing with them, right?
They wicked. These niggas wicked. You know,
Yep.
they cut off the beard, which is a custom that we don't cut our stuff off. You know what I'm saying? They destroyed their garments, had them walk back half naked. You know what I'm saying? Our nation's supposed to be covered up. We supposed to have our beards. We supposed to have all those things that they violated. When David sent those men in peace. That was wicked as hell.
That's right. Continuing on, this is in verse 6, 2 Samuel 10 and 6. And when the children of Ammon saw that they stank before David, the children of Ammon sent and hired the Syrians, okay, of Beth Rahab, and the Syrians of Zobah, 20,000 footmen, and the king of Ma'akah, 1,000 men, and of Ishtol, 12,000. So basically all of these were Syrians, you know, from different cities and different precincts. Because even when we read in the previous chapter, certain Syrians were at war with one another. So they were different. They were all the same nation, but maybe you could say different tribes or whatnot. Okay, and so anyway, the Ammonites hired thousands of Syrians to fight against Israel. It says verse 7, and when David heard of it, he sent Joab and all the host of the mighty men. Remember, Joab was captain of David's host, right? And even though Joab and his brother had wickedly slain Abner, you know, the Lord still allowed Joab to have that military might, in David's army, so it's an interesting dynamic, but it all played out. It says in verse 8, and the children of Ammon came out and put the battle in array at the entering in of the gate. And the Syrians of Zobah and Rehob and Ishtob and Ma'akah were by themselves in the field. So basically meaning, there was two armies that they were basically separated. They had two fronts. So the army came out, the Ammonite army came out of the city, the walled city, and then there was the company or the host of Syrians were in the field. So there were two camps, one Ammonites and the other Syrians. Of course, they were both fighting together on the same team against Israel, right? So it says in verse 9, when Joab saw that the front of the battle was against him before and behind, meaning there was an army ahead of him and an army behind him, it says he chose all of the choice men of Israel and put them in array against the Syrians, right? So the top dogs, the elite fighters, and then the experienced men, he took, gathered them all together and said, okay, y'all gonna be one front, right? In verse 10, and the rest of the people he delivered into the hand of Abishai, his brother, that he might put them in array against the children of Ammon. So they basically fought two battles at once. You know what I mean? They kind of had, like, Israel had to split up their army, their camp, to fight both battlefronts, which shows you that, that, like, you could say that the odds were kind of stacked against them, because they were kind of pretty much like surrounded almost, right? It says, verse 11, it says, and he said, if the Syrians be too strong for me, this is Joab speaking. If the Syrians be too strong for me, then thou shalt help me. But if the children of Ammon be too strong for thee, then I will come and help thee. It says, be of good courage, and let us play the men for our people and for the cities of our power. And the Lord Yahawah do that which seemeth him good. So even though David cursed Joab in his house, Joab still had like an inclination of like fighting for the Lord. Like that was pretty much what his whole thing was all about. Like he just wanted to fight for the Lord. So the Lord allowed Joab to be very successful, right? In his military campaigns. It says, and Joab drew nigh, and the people that were with him, unto the battle against the Syrians, and they fled before him. So Joab's army won. It says, and when the children of Ammon saw that the Syrians were fled, then fled they also before Abishai, and entered into the city. So Joab returned from the children of Ammon and came to Jerusalem. So that lets you know that, man, we're superior to these other nations, man. In battle, like the only times we would lose would be when the Lord withdrew his mercies from us. He took it whenever the Lord took his hand off from protecting us. That's when we started to get jacked up, And keep in mind, back then, this is like before, the Babylonian Empire and like the advancements in military weaponry and stuff like that. So typically, it was just sword, shield, you know what I mean? They just started using the archery in battle. And so it wasn't very, like it wasn't developed like how, if you look at the Grecian army and how the Roman army was, able to take down all these other nations because their advancements in weaponry. It was more so just like, man to man. If you can beat them in combat with a sword, whoever chops off whose arm first or stabs them or whatever, that's it, So the Lord was with us in that type of combat back then. It says, let me see, continuing on in verse 14, it says, so Joab returned from the children of Ammon and came to Jerusalem. Okay. It says, and when the Syrians saw that they were smitten before Israel, they gathered themselves together. So now the Syrians got pissed off and was like, okay, hold on, man. You know, some of these mercenaries were hired under the Ammonite army and they lost. So guess what? Now we're going to attack you guys, even though that like not all of the Syrians, but a lot of them, you know, had just got done, you know, getting jacked up by David. But hey, as you see with the Philistines was okay. Same thing with these Syrians. Right? It says they gathered themselves together in verse 16, and Hadadezer sent and brought out the Syrians that were beyond the river, and they came to Helam. Okay, now this river is the Jordan River, I believe, or it could be. Well, I got to double check and see if it's talking about the Euphrates, you know, because the Syrians occupied lands far northeast to Israelite territory, you know, so it could be one of the two. It says, and they came to Helam, and actually, let's look up this city Helam real quick. Let's see here. And they came to Helam. Okay. Chayalam, stronghold. Okay, yeah, no, that was so they went all the way. The Syrians invoked help from other Syrians from even beyond the Euphrates River, which is way out there. You know what I'm saying? If you pull it up on the map, it says Helam was a place east of the Jordan River. Okay, yeah, east of the Jordan River, west of the Euphrates River. So they went out there, you know, past the Israelite borders, talking about the Syrians, and they, you know, they went and they gathered up all the Syrians in that area. Okay, it says it's in Gilead. It says at which the Syrians under Hadadezer were defeated by David. So let's go here. Just want to see where that city Helam was. Okay, it says verse 16, 2 Samuel 10 and 16, and Hadadezer sent and brought out the Syrians that were beyond the river, okay, beyond the Jordan River. It says, and they came to Helam, and Sobak, the captain of the host of Hadadezer, went before them. Okay, remember Hadadezer was one of the kings of Syria. Okay, it says, and when it was told David, he gathered all Israel together and passed over the Jordan River and came to Helam, and the Syrians set themselves in array against David and fought with him.
And he didn't send messengers that time. He sent, you know what I'm saying? He sent soldiers.
Right. That's right. Yep.
He I extended my hand. It's almost like the Lord. It's almost like the Lord reaching His hand out to Israel. Look, I'm trying to send my prophets out there, trying to show y'all mercy, trying to, you know what I'm saying. And then, even though they was heathen, they rejected it. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? They did what they did to the messengers. Now they done effed up.
Mm-hmm. That's right. Go ahead. Con. Yep. This is continuing on. It says and the Syrians set themselves in array against David and fought with him. 2 Samuel 10 and 18. And the Syrians fled before Israel, and David slew the men of 700 chariots of the Syrians and 40,000 horsemen. Okay, so that's a big army, man. It says 700 chariots, 40,000 horsemen, and smote Shobach, the captain of their host, who died there. Okay, so it only named the horsemen. So when the names of horsemen there, typically you got at least twice as many footmen as you do horsemen, because horsemen are expensive. Horses are, you know, every soldier don't just ride on a horse. A lot of them, you know, were footmen, right? So this is just of the horsemen. Okay, so who knows? It could have been 50,000. It could have been 60,000, 100,000 men that were of Syria that were slain. Okay, and it says, and when all the kings that were servants to Hadadezer saw that they were smitten before Israel, they had made peace with Israel and served them. So the Syrians feared to help the children of Ammon anymore. You see? So they tried to puff themselves up and, you know, flex their muscles, you know, talking about the Syrians for, you know, and really they got jacked up. The Lord brought them into a situation that didn't really even have nothing to do with them, because David went to Ammon, to the, you know, to the king of the Ammonites, and the Ammonites were the ones that embarrassed us, you know, embarrassed David's messengers, and then, you know, pretty much tried to wage war against Israel, you know what I mean? And the Assyrians end up getting caught up in the crossfire. The Syrians, I mean. Yep. So yeah, I guess I can get one more. Let me see here. Let's see, Psalms 18. Let's get to Psalms 18 real quick. And I guess any other precepts that come to mind, but let me get to Psalms 18. Okay, Psalms 18 and 32. It says, "It is the Most High that girdeth me with strength and maketh my way perfect. He maketh my feet like hinds' feet and setteth me upon my high places. He teacheth my hands to war, so that a bow of steel is broken by mine arms." Okay, now let's go back up here, make sure. Yep, this is a psalm of David, man. Okay. Oh, and this is a song that a psalm of David that was sung when David was delivered from the hand of all his enemies, which we haven't gotten to chapter 22 yet, but this is pretty much the same, you know, the same prayer, if you will, the same song, Psalms 18, right? So think about all the wars that David had fought. Well, this is one of them that caused him to write this song. Okay, verse 34 again, Psalms 18 and 34. "He teacheth my hands to war, so that a bow of steel is broken by mine arms. Thou hast also given me the shield of salvation, and thy right hand hath holden me up, and thy gentleness hath made me great." You see, so, you know, the Lord was with David, man. Okay, he was spiritual, like he understood. Okay, you have a physical shield, you got a sword that's able to kill men, but really everything is influenced by the Spirit of the Lord, right? And David understood the bigger picture, that he was protected by the you know, the wings of Yahawah Yahawashi. Okay, and that's pretty much, you know, it, because we're going to end up reading this anyway. So that was pretty much the precepts that I had. Zaquan, did you have any closing points or anything?
No, that last precept was perfect. You know what I'm saying? At the end of the day, David always gave glory to Yahawah Yahawashi. You know, he never shied away from giving the glory to the Lord. You make me great. You did this for me. You did that for me. You know, even when he was young, you know, the Lord delivered that lion and that bird into my hand, just like he finna do Goliath. You know, and that's one thing we can never lose sight of, man. Always give glory to Yahawah Yahawashi, man. You see, and as we continue to read, you're gonna see. And even when David went off, you know what I'm saying? That Psalms 51. Look, we need to be in that spirit. I want to say, because we still in this flesh, so we are gonna slip and we are gonna fall. Yeah. We're gonna have to forgive our brothers. We're gonna have to do all those different things. David constantly did all those things that we preach about today. How we need to be, the mindset we need to have. You know, that's why the comfort comes from the scriptures. That's why everybody else want to have fun and they want to do them and they want to. Nah, look, man, we got one job. We got one job. You know what I'm saying? And Lord willing, we'll do it until the end. So you can go ahead and close us out.
Khan, I brought Zazad. That was edifying. With that, we want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahawah, Bahasham, Yahawashi, Bahasham, Qadash. Double honors to the apostles, and that was a great millstone. And peace and salutations to the elect. Shalom.
Shalom.